Hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm reaching out to all of you beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is, and what a beautiful day! Yes, it is a beautiful day out here, and so this is perfect temperature right now, and I hope you're getting out in nature like Starlight. And sorry, Starlight's phone is, it's not the phone, it's Starlight. So anyway, I hope you're getting out in nature and put away the excuses. We all have them, right? So put away all the excuses of why you can't. Is ask yourself, why can you? Why can you? How can you? Like, make all the excuses of why you can. I can do it because I'm going to enjoy myself. I can get out of the house. I can make this happen. I believe in yourself that you can make this happen. You can get out in nature, put the fear away. If you're afraid of the animals, believe me, Starlight's not afraid of the animals so much. I'm the one always protecting myself from people. So anyway, I love you all. And if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you can find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. You can give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't be afraid, don't be shy. Swing by and say, "Hi, Starlight," by leaving me a message down below. Beep, beep, beep. Yes, you could share, send a message to Starlight and say hello. Also, you could share my videos with your family, your friends. A vulture? Yeah, they were here today. Starlight was feeding them. So yeah, you could share my videos with a vulture. What does it mean when you see a vulture? And I'm going to say the ravens, because that is what's going on out here today. Is what animal do you think has dominance over the other? Do you think the vultures have dominance over the ravens? Or do you think the ravens have dominance over the vultures? Oh! Tick, 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 tick. Dun, 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 dun. What was that? The vultures. Yes, the vultures have dominance over the ravens. Yay! So yes, they rule over the... I was wondering that this morning. I was educating myself out here. I'm like, what's going on? So yes, besides sharing my videos with vultures or ravens, you can also check out my playlist, and you can follow me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So thank you, all of you who have been here from day one all the way to now, and everyone else that has been here. Thank you all for being here and loving, support, and Starlight, liking my videos or subscribing or even leaving me a message down below. Thank you. And today, this, I can say no to this question. Some of you are probably wondering, what am I asking? Well, you push the button, right? Whoops, sorry. And so anyway, today the topic is, do you have any regrets? Well, actually, I do. I have one regret. One regret. But I'm going to get to that later in this video. Is, do you have any regrets? Things that, maybe there's something that you did when you were a kid that you regretted that you ever did. You're like, everybody found out, right? Everybody found. Believe me, Starlight has done some stuff. What? Starlight got, we probably all got caught doing something growing up, and that's really deadly embarrassing. I'm not going to, this is not time for show and tell right now. Starlight is going to kind of keep quiet on these things. They were embarrassing things, where we could feel regrets, of things that, maybe how we were as a kid, maybe in school. Did you do something, Starlight, in school? Oh yeah, I've done, who hasn't done something in school where I'm like, you get caught doing something, or maybe at home you get caught doing something, where you might have a regret today still over something that you did when you were little, when you were growing up, maybe at teenager years. Some people might have regrets on how they treated their mom and dad. Maybe you had great parents, And you didn't respect them, you didn't honor them like it says in the Bible to do. And they really did their best. They weren't perfect. And not everyone can say that they had great parents. But for those of you who had great parents, that they weren't perfect, but they gave their all, please be there for those parents. Make sure you check up on those parents, you know, and your mom or your dad, or if it's just your mom or dad, make sure you're there for them, because they, you know, that they weren't perfect. They had flaws just like you do. And you might have regrets of, you know, and a lot of times you're not going to have regrets until after you have children. That's when really, you know, like, that has taught me a lot, is a lot of times kids, when they're growing up, if they treated their parents in such a way, took them for granted, didn't respect them, didn't honor them, didn't appreciate them, they really, if they don't ever have kids, that would be a hard thing. That could be something that they have to, maybe they have somebody else that has kids, and they can learn that lesson later on and realize, oh, that's why my parents did what they did. And you know, like, where they could later on in their life kind of understand why their parents did certain things when they were younger. They had no clue. They could have gotten upset with their parents, and they could have been really rebellious and really a troublemaker, going out and getting in trouble, you know, just causing so much chaos in the family's life, where everybody, you know, and it's tough being kids, you know, where depending on the kind of family that you come from, is a lot of times when in a family, you know, everybody in the family knows what you did, you know, and sometimes it even goes further on where relatives even know everything you did. So depending on the kind of family that you were brought up, you know, it's embarrassing, you know, that your family and, you know, in your house knows what you did, you know. Now, you know, it's not just mom and dad caught you, but then they had to tell your brothers and sisters what you did. And then you're embarrassed, because now they're always, ha, you got caught by mom and dad doing that, and they think it's funny, and then you feel horrible, and it could make you have regrets. Where if you didn't have kids, or you don't have kids, you might not, that might be a lesson that you have to learn later on in life. But normally, if you weren't good to your parents when they did all what they could do, you didn't know the sacrifices that they had of, you know, buying you clothes, and maybe you didn't appreciate, maybe you took the things for granted that they gave you. You know, not everybody comes from a home where they can even afford brand new clothes. Maybe you were that child that was brought up in a home that, you know, when before school, your family was going out to a store and bought you brand new sneakers, bought you brand new clothing. Other families, like Starlight, came from a family that it was all hand-me-downs, or auction clothes, or yard sale clothes, or my brother's clothes, you know, hand-me-downs. Now the sneakers, they were probably more than likely brand new. But not every family gets brought up the same way. And when you get older, and when you have a baby yourself, oh no, yes, see, God has a way of teaching us stuff. And we might not ever understand what our parents did, why they did, you know, this or that, you know, and we can learn from our parents in so many different ways, whether they did the right things or the wrong way, you know, the wrong way of being a parent. You still can learn, you know. So when you have your own children, now that's when you're going to learn why your parents treated you a certain way. Why were they so, you know, when you wanted to go and follow the crowd, and they didn't want you to, like right now, you know, if you got kids, or if you're parents, do you just cave in and let your kids have everything they want, like a new cell phone? I just met a guy at an auto shop. He's got a 13-year-old son, and he doesn't want his son to have a cell phone. Yay! But you might have caved in and already said, yeah, you can, hey, that is your choice, you know. So he's a wise man not to, you know, go out and run out there and get that cell phone for his kids. But you might have grew up with rules, like in your house, where, you know, all the other kids, they were out, you know, out in the streets. At what hour were they out? What were they doing? And there's a lot of areas they know when the kids, it's a nightmare for the police officers and the town people, when the kids are out of school. They're like, oh no, the kids are out of school. What kind of trouble are they going to get into this year? So that is when things get kind of tight and out in society, out in the cities and towns, because the kids are going to get bored. So, and then parents are out there. You might have came from a family like this, like Starlight, is that, hey, you are in this house at dinner time and you're not going out. That's it. Dinner time, you're eating. You got to get ready for school the next day. You're staying home. And all these other kids, they're out, they're going to parties, at a certain age, way younger than they were supposed to, where it's minors out there drinking alcohol or even, doing drugs or cigarettes or who knows what, having sex. But you were that child that couldn't go anywhere. You were stuck. So there's a lot of regrets where you treated your family like crap when you were growing up. And then when you had your own kids, then that's when you are getting taught a lesson. You're getting, the universe will give you, that child. What we do unto our parents, we can end up having a son or a daughter that behaves the same way we were when we were, a kid. And so then it's like, kind of putting another version of yourself in front of you, and you're like, oh my, this child reminds me of myself, the things that I used to try to get away with. And then you're learning from your child. Not all the time this happens, but you can learn from your own child when they're like a mirror to you, and they're showing you how you were to your family, but now you're the adult, you're the parent now, and now you're looking at your child, and now you're the one that's got to make these decisions. And now now the pieces are coming together. So some parents or even adults now have regrets because they realize that they were not being good to their mom or dad or their parents, when they were growing up, and didn't understand. They lacked understanding. They thought their parents were being mean, not realizing that the parents were just keeping their kids safe by saying, no, you're in. Well, you better be here at dinner time. After that, it's all about, getting prepared for the next day for school. You got to wake up early in the morning. You're not going to be running the streets like all the other kids. So yeah, it's tough being a kid growing up and thinking that we got to be like everyone else. Other things is that a lot of people have a lot of regrets because of relationships that they were in, how they treated someone that they were in with, whether it was a guy or a girl, whether it was a husband or wife, girlfriend or boyfriend, or even friends that you had. And maybe you did something wicked to your friend. Maybe you were lying. Maybe you cheated, like went with your friend's girlfriend or boyfriend. Maybe you cheated on a girlfriend or a boyfriend or husband or wife, and you have regrets. You're like, man. And all your whole life, you're like, that was the best relationship you had. That person treated you really good, and you screwed up. And I know people like this. I know people that they were unfaithful. And no matter what girl they end up getting in their life, they always think back of when they were really young and they had a hard time being in relationships because they were a handsome person and they were popular, they had money, but they had a problem with females always lusting after other women, even though they were in relationships with women, is that they goofed up and they ended up cheating on, one of their ex-girlfriends. And at this day, they never found another girl that was quite like that one, and all the time, even though they're in a relationship now, they regret what they did, even though they were like 20 years old. They're like, I cheated on her. And she even gave him a chance to come back, but it never worked out because it was too hard for her. She didn't trust him anymore because he goofed up, he messed up. And that was not the first time that person goofed up. They didn't really learn their lesson as far as being faithful to women. And there's a lot of people, men or women, that go through that where they messed up. They didn't really honor that person at the time, And now, throughout their life, they never been able to find anyone like that, you know, in their life. So there's people that have those kind of regrets. Other kind of regrets that people have is being a parent but never being there for their kids. Lots of people have those kind of regrets. They could even be in a family and having kids, but they're not there with them. They're not responsible. They're not spending time with them. They're not being a good example. They're not there for them mentally, physically, you know, like emotionally, even to take care of their needs. You know, they're not there. They're too busy out partying. They're, you know, they weren't ready to have kids, you know, and then those kids end up getting adults, and later on they end up hating and despising their parents because the children that are now adults, you know, they realize that, wow, you were never there for me. You were gone. You know, mom was always the one that was at the house. You were not, you know, you always had somewhere to go, or you're always working, not being home. You know, you worked extra hours. I always wanted to spend time with you, Dad, but, you know, you were never there for me, or even Mom. You know, Dad was always there, and Mom was never around. Mom was always too busy going out and being a social butterfly and going out at the bar every night or on the weekends and flirting with men. You know, so, you know, like, you can have so many different things that go on where now you're an adult and, you know, your kids are adults now, and they don't look at you. They don't want nothing to do with you. You, whoops, I got an ant. An ant's now. I'm sorry, Aunt. I did not mean to do that. You know, that was horrible. Sometimes they just die like that. You know, they just, like, it takes one little. But anyway, that one's just wiggling around. So sorry, universe. That was an accident. So anyway, yeah, so there's people that have regrets because they weren't there for their kids. They were a bad example. They got their kids into drinking alcohol at a young age. They got their kids into smoking cigarettes and doing drugs. And then they wonder why their kids went out and, you know, started stealing and getting caught with the cops, drinking and driving. And they got regrets because they realized, wow, and this can happen with mom or dad. It doesn't always have to be the dad figure that did this. It could be the mom that got their kids into drinking and alcohol. And, you know, even I've witnessed so many things in my life where there's even either parents, mom or dad, that could even get their kids into having sex and even participating with that with their own kids, even as when they get young adults, is to bring them out to the bar scene, and where the father and the son mainly that way would go is, you know, where they're out trying to pick up the same women, you know, and bringing their son around with them, and wondering why the son turned out the way they did later on is because the father was not being a good example. And so when they get older, you know, and see all the trouble that their son or daughters got into and how come they didn't pick out the right person as far as relationships, is that they have regrets and thinking, wow, I got them into all this drugs and alcohol. Or, you know, they don't even have to, these parents don't even have to be in their life, you know, if they're not even in their life, and they, you know, like the mom is only the one raising them up and the dad is outside, you know, the mother broke up with the dad and the dad is out, you know, like he's got a 1-bedroom apartment, he's got, like, you know, a low income job, you know, and all his money goes on his bills and alcohol or drugs. And, you know, people have regrets because, you know, they're like, how was I as a father? When Father Days come up or Mother's Day comes up, they're thinking back, how were you as a father? How were you as a mother? You know, so people they have regrets of how they were as far as an example to their kids when they were growing up. There's a lot of examples out there as, do you have any regrets? Now, Starlight did say in the beginning of this video is, I do have I do have one regret. Because the whole reason for this video is you got to let all that go. You know, the only thing you can do now is who you are right now. All that stuff, you got to let it go. You got to forgive yourself. And if you're that child that now is an adult, that you had parents that were not there and all that stuff, you know what? It's easier said than done, but you got to forgive them. You got to let that shit go. It doesn't mean that you got to follow them and do what they did. It was a lesson. Painful as it is to say, it was a lesson. It was a lesson to teach you when you have children not to do those things. It was a lesson for you to understand that I'm not going to be like my father. I am not going to be like my mother. I'm going to be a better mother, and I'm going to be a better father like I did with my kids. I'm going to learn from my parents' example, and I'm not going to repeat that same cycle. We have choices in life. It's up to you whether what you decide to do, whether you're going to make the right decisions. And when you have a child, are you going to, like party and, go out and do all this stuff? If you really are interested in having babies, don't do it until you get your partying done, or be responsible, and that is, you don't have to like party with your kids around the house, because there's a lot of people that have done that, where the kids are around in the house and then the parents are getting drunk and wasted and they got a whole bunch of people. Nobody knows who's doing what in the house, and anything could happen at parties like that. So do you have regrets, maybe even at jobs that you had, maybe, taking jobs and being there forever and then regretting it your whole life, saying, man, I wasted all those years being with that company and they weren't there for me. I was a slave to the system. I was a slave to that company, and I worked there I gave them all my life. I gave them all that time, and they didn't really appreciate my time or me as a person. I just was being used. Some people had those kind of regrets, or they want to go back to a company they got fired from because they did something wrong, like stealing something, and then they got kicked out. They got caught because they didn't know there was a camera, and bam, they're out of that job, and they never got to find another job that respected them and was a good employer, and they got paid right, they treated them good, but they got regrets now, thinking, man, if I only could go back. You can't go back. Most of the time you can't. Sometimes if you get right, and you make changes and you go back to certain things, that you can make things right. But a lot of times those things are done with, it's a done deal. So you got to let go of any of those regrets. Most of the time we cannot go back and fix any of it. If you were not a good mom or not a good dad, and you didn't learn the lessons from your parents or even from your other relatives, that those are all lessons, they're all teachers teaching us what not to do most of the time, or what to do, what works and what doesn't. You gotta figure that out on your own journey in life. Did you like the way your parents brought you up? If not, you don't have to repeat what they did. And so my only regret is, I wish I was on this journey earlier. I wish I started a YouTube channel earlier. I wish, those are my regrets, is I wish I knew the truth when I was younger. I wish I understood, but you know what? It's okay. I'm here. I got to let that go. It's okay. I got to let that go and say, there's nothing I can do. I can't go back and change anything. It's okay. I'm not going to, all the other stuff in my life that I've done, I've said, no, I have no regrets. You know why? Because I was finding out who I am. I've done a lot of embarrassing things in my life, things that I'm not proud of, don't we all? But I'm not gonna drink my life away, and say, woe is me, every day with a 6-pack of beer or doing drugs and just wasting the rest of my life away. Now I can actually, say, you know what? That was then, this is now. That's why it's so important to stay in the now, in the present moment, is forget all about those regrets that you think that you have. Let it go. Right now is the time. Right, today is a new day. Today is a new page, a new slate. Today is when you can make it all different. Today is the time, right now. Forget about yesterday. Forget about last week. Forget about last month. Forget about the person that you cheated on, and forget about all this stuff. is right now. Learn your lessons from, those things, that the regrets, you know. And if you have regrets that you can't change anything about, you can always do the right thing. Like if you were a bad parent, tell your kids, I am sorry. You know what? I didn't learn the lessons from my parents, and so I caused you a lot of pain in your life because I didn't know what I was doing. And I am sorry. That's what they need to hear. They really do. All the kids, they need to hear that from their dads and moms, is that, you know what? I'm sorry I treated you that way. I'm sorry that I caused you so much pain in your life, because the kids need that. They really do. They need parents to admit what they did and to say, I'm sorry. So those are ways that you can kind of help that out. But you got to let go of any of those regrets. You got to just stay right now. And like right now is when you can say, what can I do to make a difference in my life right now? And start working on it. Let all that stuff go. Just like, let it go down the stream or down the toilet bowl. Just let it, flush that shit. And if it doesn't go down, flush it again, because all toilets are different. I'm telling you, you go in some toilet, you go somewhere and you're like, come on, go down there. You might have to let it sit a little bit and flush that baby down again. Just let it go down the toilet bowl. Of course, here there's a porta potty. That shit ain't going anywhere. So you don't want that kind of shit to happen where it just piles up, because that's what happens to a lot of people. They let shit pile up. You got to flush that shit down there. You got to let it go, and, let it go. That's all I could say. Let it go. You can start a whole new chapter now. It's all about starting anew, starting afresh, saying, you know what? I'm going to start working on myself. I'm going to start, even if you can get your voice out there and help other people out with what you did, that you regretted, let that regrets go, but you can take that wisdom and knowledge and help other people, help young men and women out, whoever is around. If you got brothers or sisters that have little babies, or you see somebody, you can help them. You can say, you know what? I've been down that road, and I know you're heading that same direction. You could, not that we're controlling people, but you can give them good sound advice and say, you know what? I'm telling you, you're going to regret that later on, what you're doing, because I've been there. I know what it's like. And that's why I have a YouTube channel, is I'm putting stuff that I've learned one way or another in my life to help you, so you don't take that same route. To, like, hey, don't do it that way. That's not the way to do that, You really don't want to, So I love you so much, is let go of all those regrets. It's not healthy for you. You got to forgive yourself. You got to forgive those other people. There's times that people cause us to do things, but those, you got to let it go. We think that they caused us to do that. We have a choice. We have a choice to do what we think is right, or, just doing whatever, is to just, I'm just going to do whatever, not even care about the consequences. Well, you reap what you sow. A lot of people, there's people I met, they don't believe shit is going to happen. They feel like they never got caught. Nothing ever happened. But you got to live with it all the time. So even if you never got caught, you're living with it every day. So I love you. Let it all go. Flush it down that toilet bowl. Say bye. I'm not going to beat myself up over that anymore. That happened a long time ago. I could beat myself up over some crazy ass shit that Starlight did when I was younger. And I'm like, no, you know what? I had to go through that. I found out that's not for me. I tried it, but it's not for Starlight, So I love you. This is Starlight. You can give this video a thumbs up. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you can share my videos with your family or friends. Let me see. Ooh. An ant. Oh my, that ant. It must have survived. It's not there anymore. I kind of crippled it, but it's not there anymore. So thank you. Yeah, you could share my videos with an ant and a frog, because the frog, they like the ants. And I love you so much. As you can also check out my playlist and find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. So wow, there's a lot of I was like, "Phew," there's a lot of butterflies out here. If you see starlight, it's a butterfly going, "Phew." So yes, starlight loves butterflies, and not that fly though. I love you all. So let it all go. Write down next time you go to the toilet, think of Starlight and just flush that shit. So anyway, I love you. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.